Let's get into changing the world together. 32 members of Congress, evenly split among Democrats and Republicans, because they're basically the same, fared better than the market. Overall, Democratic lawmakers were up 31.18% last year, while their GOP colleagues were up 17.99%. Numerous members in Congress traded war stocks before the Israel-Gaza-Palestine conflict, unusual Wales noted. So, whether or not you're seeing pro-Israel politicians or pro-Palestinian politicians espousing publicly, one thing where they agree is it's okay to invest in weapons manufacturers prior to that conflict. And don't you think that the money where the mouth is evidence there tells you a lot more than the empty rhetoric that they may use on the steps of one of those sacred buildings that if you invade them without a ticket or without permission, people are literally sobbing on the news. Let's have a look at how ABC News report on this.
As long as a trade is reported before 45 days, there's no law preventing members of the House or Senate from trading stocks, even if the bills they pass or committees they sit on could influence a company's stock price.
Almost as if people try to occasionally introduce laws to prevent that, but whenever those laws are introduced, the people that are in charge of voting for whether or not those laws should stick go, hold on a minute, I personally financially benefit from there not being any regulation against me doing this or engaging in these practices, so I'm not going to do that. And isn't that the sense you get from politics across the world? Those of you in the UK watching this post office scandal unfold will realise that this is something that happened ages ago. Now, both political parties are pretending to care because it's been on the television. There are very few moral scruples within these institutions because these institutions require that you abdicate those principles. That's why it takes a long while to create change. Oh, it will take generations. It doesn't need to take generations. You could just, like that, change the world. But it wouldn't be beneficial for the people that are within those institutions benefiting from things being exactly as they are.
Outraged at first, Chris then saw an opportunity to get in on the action. He moved out west and with 3 friends launched the app Autopilot. It lets users follow a politician's trades and then copy them.
I mean, that is amazing. If you just did that, you would be ahead of the market. I mean, is there any clearer indication of corruption than the fact that if you simply do what people in Congress are doing, you will make money? That, in a sense, means you could kind of collapse the whole system. What's the point in the stock market? What's the point in consultants? What's the point in traders and stock market and all of these experts? You just go, what are them lot investing in? Well, they're investing in that. Right, well, that's the end of it, isn't it? Like, doesn't that show you the degree of institutionalized corruption?
Automatically buying or selling the same stock a lawmaker does at whatever dollar amount they like.
At what point does this become illegal?
The company now has users dedicating tens of millions trying to grow their own bank accounts by mimicking lawmakers' market moves. But the app has also become a rallying cry for a new generation of investors, pointing out what they say is a rigged system that lets a group of 535 men and women with serious political influence buy and sell stocks in the first place. Legally, lawmakers can't trade on inside information, meaning details out of the hands of the general public. But a hypothetical senator could vote for an infrastructure bill and then buy stock in a company that was publicly awarded a project to build a bridge in their district.
Those men, like, building a road, like the dichotomy is just like the toil of asphalting a road in galoshes and just shoveling down. Meanwhile, we could be exploiting that for profit. There's so much scope for radical change.
They could even sit on the Armed Services Committee and trade in the stock of a defense contractor receiving a sizable government contract.
How dare you? How dare you invade the Capitol building? That is where we inspire and organize illegal wars that are armed by companies that I personally invest in. You were actually in the building. You're going to prison. You were in the environment. You're going to prison. You used the term January 6th, but that's when my son was born. You are a criminal, sir. Now, I'm just going to invest in jails filling up.
Potential conflicts of interest that in the past few years, thousands online began relishing pointing out were all legal.
This is a red flag.
And the biggest name doing that isn't a name at all, a finance guy who started poring over members of Congress's trades when he was bored during the early months of the pandemic.
He was just bored. He started doing it out of boredom. So that pandemic, it created so much change, didn't it? It created such a fissure in society, people being locked in their homes, so much doubt in our institutions, such a total lack of trust in media, such a lack of trust in Big Pharma. And this guy,
he goes by the full moniker Unusual Whales. themselves. Wales's data finds members of Congress's stock portfolios consistently beat the S&P 500.
Cool, Banksy style. He's going anonymous. Respect.
One example Wales pointed us to was the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and the regional banking crisis. Then, some lawmakers on key congressional committees that govern the financial system dumped SVB and other bank stocks during the turmoil, many before their price plummeted. Not illegal, Wales says, but eyebrow-raising.
I'm going to have to raise an eyebrow for that. Knowing what you know about the ethics and morality of the occupants of those buildings, do you think it's possible that it would cross their mind, for example, when voting on whether to continue to aid conflict between Ukraine and Russia, they might go, oh, that might be beneficial, or whether to invest in, as they said, in infrastructure, which doesn't seem to be happening a hell of a lot, or whether to invest in some big tech or award a contract to Google or Facebook. Think of the kind of relationships. This is without getting into lobbying or donations. Actually, it's not hyperbolic to say the system is totally corrupt. It almost requires a level of faith from us that seems childlike, ridiculous, unsustainable levels of credulity are required for us not to actually, thinking about it, wait till about January 6th, walk in there and go, listen, this is mental. This is mad. That's why they have to frame that as the extreme event. What's being normalized? Well, look, there is a loophole that doesn't prevent. If it's for family members, well, no, of course you can't sit on that committee. The masquerade and the sophistry that's utilized in order to maintain a system that's so plainly corrupt. Whenever someone comes along that's half-decent, Ross Perot, Bobby Kennedy, Cornel West, Marianne Williamson, they're just maligned and marginalized. People are breathed into the system, sort of bathed in the formaldehyde of corruption and become inutile and hopeless. Remember in the 60s when people rose up that plainly had principles, Malcolm X, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King? What happened to those guys? Oh, they all died in mysterious circumstances when a lone gunman shot them in. Some crackpot. Oh no, another crackpot. There's some weird kind of blind date magic takes place between idealistic political figures and lone crackpots. As soon as you're like an idealistic public orator, it's just a matter of time for a lone crackpot emerges to kill you. I'm actually feeling quite who the hell's that guy? What's in your pocket, sir? Okay, I'll start investing. Get me some shares in Northrop Grumman. Get me shares in Northrop Grumman.
And